Letter to the Young Turks, 9:58 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Wednesday, April 19th, 2023, in response to the article that you posted several hours ago regarding Germany shuts down its last nuclear power plants. What's next? Anna, you need to research on how nuclear power is generated because your research in your story is lacking data. You do not realize that nuclear fallout from Fukushima was just the tip of the iceberg. You haven't even caught on to Yucca Flats and the reason why people had problems with nuclear power in the first place. Special water is generated to contain the heat of rods made of uranium and other radioactive alloys. Those are put into containment areas to control power, and these things, if exposed to air, would generate a lot of thermonuclear energy. I'm not a physicist. I've just seen too much of this damn stuff in some of the stories I've come across. And a little bit of history, research here and there when it came down for videos on how nuclear power is and how it's generated. Not just from Hollywood movies either. Yucca Flats was the mountains out in Nevada where they were supposed to be storing used nuclear rods, which are still radioactive to this day and will last thousands and thousands of years. They got a hell of a half-life to them. Not to mention storage containers of the used heavy water that is needed to contain the nuclear energy, to control the heating elements of those hot rods. And the heat would generate steam generators. Hooked up to the power lines, we'd get our energy like crazy out of these damn things. As long as the power was well regulated, there could have been sustainable energy. But the drawback is of the limited amount of radioactivity that we use up. And now we're creating unlimited nuclear waste. When we conceived of the atomic bomb, we were thinking about a war situation back in 1944. A little bit earlier than that, Oppenheimer and his team were trying to discover the secrets of nuclear power. Right? Einstein had already shown to the world with his general relativity. You can research this. But I'm only giving you what information I remembered throughout my education growing up. We all knew what a nuclear blast would do. And the energy contained in a nuclear blast is a hell of a thing to take a look at. But to do a controlled explosion every microsecond in a nuclear reactor, just so you can boil the water to get the steam energy going, to power the turbines that would generate the electricity going through the power lines to the towns and places that their energy is needed. And yes, having earthquake fault lines next to, on top of, doesn't matter how close to the nuclear power plant it is, they're still dangerous enough. And Fukushima was definitely in the Pacific Rim of fire. You forgot about that one there too. The danger of having a nuclear power plant is you have to keep on top of everything, including if the mechanisms all over the place, the actual engineering of the plant is still working. Pipes that generate, pipes that carry, pipes that can leak, pipes that can create an overload effect. 3 Mile Island was our wake-up call to what kind of nuclear disaster we could be facing, even in the midst of clean nuclear energy. And this was This was not the straw that broke our back, but this was part of the back that was getting broken here. And people leaked because we were so afraid of the nuclear demon that we generated. Forgot about that controversy, did you? Of course, you're trying to mention about how Germany and how it's going to be affecting our global economy, and not to mention the global weather patterns that we got screwed up all over the damn place. Starts off with our industrial revolution, where we're dumping out a hell of a lot of fossil fuels and everything else into the air. And yes, they do cause a hell of a lot of health issues. Coal mining had to be replaced with something cleaner. But we had to get some kind of energy source that was a lot cleaner. We discovered that solar energy is clean, but it's not sufficient enough because we don't have the batteries necessary to contain that energy enough, do we? It would have been nice if we actually had a nice solar power plant out in space, generating and beaming the energy to our receptors down on the planet, but nobody's got the science figured out yet. Would have been better if we actually had cold fusion created. Or even just nuclear fission. But cold fusion would work. It was theoretically going to be help liberating our energy needs, but we haven't even got to that point yet. We talked about it. We made a little experimentations work, but not really verified and not very reliable just yet. They talk about creating matter and antimatter, trying to get away from the Star Trek science fiction stuff. Well, if we had matter created, and we actually created a one-on-one ratio needed to balance things out, that would be something. But we haven't got to that science level yet either. So what do we have? Oil, gas, peat. What else is there? We would have to go back to nuclear power. Understanding that we have to bury the stuff deep into an area where there are no aquifers, that any leakage could poison. We would have to have the infrastructure still recreated or rebuilt to accommodate the power supply coming from the nuclear power plants. But we're trying to make it into a clean earth. We can't do that without screwing ourselves over in the process. That's the one thing you still hadn't figured out telling people about. I'm not a fan of nuclear power, but if it's out there, then we have to realize the cost of it. Mining the uranium, the radioactive ores that's manufactured into rots. The same technology that we keep denying other foreign countries that are considered enemies of state from having, and yet they have them anyway. They'll smuggle out the nuclear technology. If you can make a reactor, you can make a bomb or nuke. Talk to North Korea about that one. You want to open up Pandora's box on this one? Let's open it up. Let's open up real wide on this situation here. You're trying to focus on what Germany and its power needs are going to be like, and the rest of Europe and the rest of the country and the rest of the world, how we're supposed to be dealing with it. And you have to do the pros and cons. You have to show the pros and cons. It's just not one side of it. You have to show both of it, or more of it. And you really have to understand what a spectrum is. If you're going to be looking at a story, look at it from every damn angle. You're going to be a storyteller, tell them the story, but just don't tell them one particular point of view. Anyway, this is John C. Weaver from Roseman, California. And yes, I do watch your shows. And I do watch the progressive viewpoint. Doesn't mean I agree with it completely. It doesn't mean that I'm also a conservative. No, I'm a libtard, or as they call a libturd. Some things I do believe in, and other things I know that are not achievable just yet. While other countries can try to do universal health care, we're screwed over because we're not in that situation. We're still capitalists. We still want to make money, one way or another, including off of people's misery. And we will suck them dry because that's how our business runs. We're not ready for socialized medicine, and people think that we're going to be turning into socialists. But we're not. We're turning ourselves into idiots. And people keep forgetting about socialism. Oh, I'm hearing Pandora screaming at me right now in the background. That's another topic I need to talk to you about on another video.